Here it is, Sunday afternoon. We had just a little splash of rain. Not enough to do the gardens much good, but it might help the yards get the grass green again. So we'll take all we can get right now. And seems like there's problems all over, no matter where you live, what you're doing. There's some kind of weather condition, or if not that, it's going to be your iPad and your video connections and what have you. And I've been talking to Billie Jean, and we tried to get a video going so that we could have one on this evening. Now, I don't know what will take place because it kept cutting out on us. He's in Texas, I'm in Kentucky. He's having all kinds of network problems there. Everybody got problems, even with their electricity, their air conditioning, and they really need the air conditioning there. So if it's not one problem, it's another, and we just have to bear with it. And I hope that he can get it on tonight at the regular time. It won't amount to much, but we tried, and all we can do is hope it works. If not, tune in again next week, and maybe we can have something good on if their networks are working in Texas. And so I'm hoping I stay on right now for my story. I've got a little story for you. Some of you have been saying I haven't been putting any stories on. Well, you know, I'm running low on stories right now. I haven't been doing anything, haven't gone anywhere. It's kind of hard to, what was it, the Oak Ridge Boys used to sing, counting flowers on the wall. That's just about what I've been doing, except I think there might be a little dusty spider web or something once in a while, but we don't have spiders when you get up to the 8th floor of a condominium. The spiders won't climb that high. So anyway, I was trying to come up with something that would interest you. And I've been thinking about some of the old movies. I don't know if there's anybody on here that has seen more old movies in their day, not today, but back in the 40s and 50s. I saw so many wonderful movies, and I started listing some of them, and especially those where you had people like Greg Garson and Walter Pidgeon in one movie after another. You had people like Cary Grant and Irene Dunn on one picture after another. There was Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. They played in 9 different movies together. Got to get myself positioned better here. And I kept making the list, so I stopped after so long. I had one down for, some of you may remember William Powell and Myrna Loy. But speaking of Myrna Loy, well, that also brings up Cary Grant again. And I'm going to tell you that of all of the movies I have seen over the years, my favorite scene, some of you are going to recognize this, was from the movie with Cary Grant and Myrna Loy, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's when she is telling the painter the colors of paint she wants in the living room and the kitchen and the bedroom and the den or wherever. yellows, the blues, the pinks, and he's and she has the little thread. She's saying, I want it this color of yellow. And then in another one she says, now I don't want the blue that's in this piece of wallpaper. I don't want it that color. I don't want it that color. I want it, see the little tiny polka dots in the background? That's the color I want the paint to be. So when she finishes, she said, did you get that? Yes, he got that. Turned to the painter, and the painter said, red, yellow, gold, and green, blue, whatever. That has been an all-time favorite scene from the movies. I can't say I have a favorite movie. I've got a lot of favorite movie stars. And some of you younger people probably wouldn't even recognize some of the names, like Merle Oberon. Do you remember her? I remember her. Robert Taylor, he was so handsome. Hedy Lamarr. There was much more to Hedy Lamarr than just her beauty. She was a brilliant, brilliant person in science and all. She gave up being a movie star because she was very smart. The government used her ideas. I can't tell you what they are because I'd have to go back and read about her, but she was such a pretty lady, and she didn't play in that many movies. She didn't have to. She was so busy in the world of science. So I kept going with my little list. Olivia de Havilland. Sometimes I went to the movies because of who played in the movie. Didn't have anything to do with what it was about, the background of the story or anything. If Olivia de Havilland was in the movie, I knew it was going to be a good one. If Cary Grant was in it, I knew I was going to see that movie. Same with Katharine Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn, oh my gosh. I know I saw every movie she made. Some of you probably don't remember Peter Finch. Peter Finch played in a movie with Julie Christie. Now, if you don't know who Julie Christie is, you will when I tell you that she played in Dr. Zhivago. Everybody has seen Omar Sharif and Julie Christie in Dr. Zhivago. Well, in this case, we had just moved from Louisville to Lexington, and my husband and I decided to go to a movie downtown. It's at a theater that's not there anymore. They tore it down in 1974. One of those progressive things that the cities do, you know, they get rid of your historic property and build something with glass and steel. But the only movie I saw at that theater was called Far from the Madding Crowd. Wait a minute. Far from the Madding Crowd. It was a 3-hour movie. If you can get it on one of the channels, watch it. Peter Finch was in it. I always had it on my top 10 list of favorite movies. It is a wonderful movie. Julie Christie. So, let's see if there are any others that I wanted to cover. Lana Turner and John Garfield. Now they made The Postman Always Rings Twice. They made it a second time. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. I knew they could never replace Lana Turner and John Garfield in a reproduction of The Postman Always Rings Twice. I can picture her with a little turban around her head, the white. She had on a white blouse. You know, the blouse is buttoned down the front, and she had a little tied up under her bosom, little knot tied there, and you could see her midriff. She had on white shorts and white shoes. And she stepped out of that kitchen into the doorway, and I'm telling you, you never saw anything more beautiful than Lana Turner in that one scene when she was dressed in all white. Let's see, I have my notes here because I forget things real quick. Never missed a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie. Never missed a Gene Kelly movie, The Dancers. Oh, as a teenager, I wanted to dance. I wanted to learn to dance. I would leave the theater in my penny loafers. They had nice thick leather soles. And I would tap dance from the theater all the way home. If only I'd known how to tap dance. I've got a long list here. Now, I'm not going to go over all of them anyway. But I did want to point out Far From the Madding Crowd with Julie Christie. I know everybody's seen Dr. Zhivago. Don't have to mention that. And, oh yes. Some of you may not be that familiar with John Gavin unless you saw Imitation of Life, which was also with Lana Turner. That was a wonderful, wonderful movie. And he was so handsome, so handsome. He also played in another movie that I'd say a lot of you are not familiar with, Backstreet. That was with Susan Hayward. She was so beautiful in that movie, and she was a dress designer. Right up my alley, I'm telling you. Oh, the clothes were gorgeous. He was so handsome. And do you know that he was an ambassador? We don't think of movie stars as being ambassadors or diplomats. But if you ever get to see that movie, Backstreet, John Gavin, Susan Hayward, you watch it. I could go on and on and on with movies. Now we can get down to television. Things you've seen on television. It was 1972 when they came on with the first episode of The Waltons. We all know the first episode was a movie with Patricia Neal, The Homecoming. I watched it. Oh my gosh. It was so wonderful, so real. I like movies that are real to life, you know, that they really could have happened that way. So she was in that movie. Then after that, they decided to make it a series, but they put Michael Larned in place of the main part that Patricia Neal had played. I started watching The Waltons. It was a regular every week. They stayed on for 9 years. 9 years. That's a lot of writing. And you know who the writer was? The writer's name was, let me get my notes again. Oh, let's see here. We had Earl Hamner Jr. He was the writer for the Waltons. And what I didn't realize was that I remembered trying to talk my mother and father into going to another movie at the theater back in it was about 1950, I guess, 51. It was a movie called Spencer's Mountain. I loved that movie. And do you know who the writer was? Earl Hamner, the writer for the Waltons. Well, each week I watched the Waltons. And each week I got that itch. I guess you'd call it an itch. I loved the story. Couple, grandparents, and 8 children. Yeah, that sure sounded familiar to me. Lived on farm. They were up on the mountain though. My mother and her family, they were in the hills of Virginia. Well, I kept thinking, you know, someone could write the story of my family and have just as good a series as watching the Waltons. Everybody was watching the Waltons. And I used to say, they don't have anything on my family. Wish somebody could write a story and make a movie of my family. I got to reading about Earl Hamner. I wanted to know a little more about him and his own family, the true life story. They lived in Virginia, a little community, I think, called Schuyler, Virginia, or something like that. And I thought, well, you know, my mother and dad lived on farms in Virginia, too. My dad's family was in a little place called, oh my gosh, traffic out there. Well, I forgot what I was telling. Anyway, they both lived on big farms. And the area was in Virginia, just like the Waltons. I can't read my notes because I don't have enough light. Okay, what else did I find out? Would you know that the father his family was from Wales? They migrated to the United States from Wales. My dad's family was from Wales too. They migrated to Virginia as well. That's unusual. Earl Hamner tells about the little whiteboard church, little Baptist church that the family went to. Now, see, he was the oldest of 8 children. I was the youngest of 8 children. That is, after the first nephew had died, and that left us a family of 8 children. I was the youngest. Earl Hamner was the oldest. Earl Hamner was in the Army in World War II. My older brother was in the Air Corps, Army Air Corps, in World War II. Got that in common. The Little White Baptist Church looked almost like the one my great-grandfather established in Virginia. It's on the borderline of Virginia and Tennessee. It's called Big Spring Union Baptist Church, established in 1856 by my great-grandfather. 2 Baptist churches. It seemed that everything I read about Earl Hamner and his life and his family ran parallel to my parents and our family. No wonder I could see the similarities in the way they lived, how many children there were, the jobs they had, living on the farm. Why couldn't someone tell our story? I always remembered another movie that made me think this could have been one of my sisters. It was a movie about a girl, and I can't even tell you who the star was. But the name of the movie was Sarah, Plain and Tall. She had come from a fairly well-to-do home on the East Coast and had moved out west and married. And it was such a beautiful movie that I could never forget that movie. I'd love to see it again. Sarah, Plain and Tall. It reminded me of my family, my mother, my dad, their way of life. Out in the fields hoeing corn, the beans, watching the beans climb up those poles. Sometimes the beans were climbing up the corn stalks. The weather conditions, their way of life, living in log cabins, no different than my family. So I got that on my mind, and I thought, how much different were their lives from my family's lives? The Waltons stayed on the air 9 years. I haven't seen a series like Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons since those were taken off of television. I haven't seen a good sitcom in 6 or 8 years. I don't watch the sitcoms anymore. They're not funny. Used to be so darn good funny. All in the Family. One Day at a Time. The Lucy Show. Nothing any funnier than I Love Lucy. There were, Danny Thomas Show. used to love to watch Danny Thomas show. My Little Margie. Oh gosh, I could go on and on and on. They were hilarious sitcoms. You could apply your own life to the things that they did in those shows, and they were funny. Actually, belly laughing funny. I haven't seen one of those in years. Now, it's an iPad computer. Most of the days, I don't turn my television on. I don't want to watch The View. I don't want to watch the game shows. What else is there? News. Tell me when they show us some good news. I don't want to watch the bad news. I'll just get a book and read. Or I'll tell my own stories. That's what I'll do. I'll tell stories about my own mother, my own dad, my 6 sisters, my 2 brothers. That's what I'll do. And that's what I've been doing. A lot of detail has been taken out of the stories because, it takes time. You can make stories too long for some people. Some want me to cut them down. Some want me to make them longer. Well, I'll just stay in the middle of the road as much as I can. My memory's going. I know it. I'm well aware of it. I don't need anyone to say, she's getting forgetful. I know I'm getting forgetful because I start to tell you a person's name and I'm, what's his name? I guess we all do that to a certain degree. But I worry about it. I don't want to do that. I want to have the memory my mother had. When my mother could lie in the nursing home bed and I could ask her questions, she could answer. I always think about the night we were watching probably something from Grand Ole Opry, I don't know. But, there was Roy Clark and those good country music singers, musicians. And, oh, how they could play those fiddles. Oh, how they could play a harmonica. When's the last time you saw somebody play a harmonica? Do you remember the Harmonicats? Whoa, they were a wonderful group. I don't know if you can find anything on Google about the Harmonicats, but they were musicians. You don't find any of that anymore. So, anyway, here I am. I've got my Dr. Pepper in my little thermos here. I keep it handy so that when I get to talking too much and my throat gets dry, I can reach over and take a sip of Dr. Pepper. Right now, I'm looking out the window. I think it might still be sprinkling a little bit. The sun decided to go back in. We do need rain. There's so many things we need nowadays. We never know from one day to the next what is going to happen. We don't know how our lives are going to be changed. I don't look forward to the future. Yeah, I know. Don't talk like that. But life isn't the way I dreamed it should be. I'm living in the past. There were a lot of good things in the past. Life was rough for a lot of people. But there were a lot of good things that came out of the past. A lot of good people. And a lot of good stories that can be told. Now, I just need to come up with some of those stories that I'm about to forget. I don't want them to go by the wayside. I don't want my family to be forgotten. I want the descendants to see what was good about their ancestors, where they came from. Grandparent that came from Wales, grandparent that came from England. I don't know where else they came from. Who knows? My DNA tells me that there are several relations that don't make sense to me, and I'm kind of questioning. I don't think, no, not in my family. Okay. But it would be interesting to go back and see. I want to go to England again. I want to go to that little place, couple that I met from England, took my friend and me one Sunday while we were there. We took the train to Cambridge. Cambridge is a beautiful place. Of course, it's got the colleges there. And we went at the right time of year because the ground was covered with yellow and purple flowers. Just covered. And that was in March. So the couple wanted to take us to dinner. Dinner was lunch. We drove to a little pub. I don't know if it was a pub or a restaurant. I don't know where you draw the line. But what I loved about it was the name. It was called 5 Miles from Anywhere. 5 Miles from Anywhere. I got such a kick out of that. Even in Cambridge, they would have a little narrow sidewalk next to the building. You had to walk close to the building because the sidewalks weren't very wide. And you were walking uphill, and it said, up the street. The next street over said, down the street. You ever heard such a thing? It was really fun reading the road signs, the street signs, and things like that. But while we were at 5 Miles from Anywhere, we had a wonderful, wonderful lunch that day. They were still talking, and I went out on the back porch, rustic looking, the ground level as far as you could see. And I started walking across the grass, and I came to a canal. Have you ever seen a canal? We don't have canals in the United States. If we do, I don't know where they are. And there I stood, beside a canal. Now, the interesting thing about it was, if I hadn't been looking down at the ground, I wouldn't have known that canal was there, because it was level with the ground. You could have walked across the ground and walked right across that canal if you hadn't sunk into the water. If you hadn't been looking down, you wouldn't have known. The level was the same. You had the level here, ground here, and in between was the water. Same level. That amazed me. I mean, we go to the river, you got to go down this bank and down this path and get to the rocks and the sand and whatever to get to the water. With a canal, you just walked across the grass, and you better be watching where you're going, or you'll step right in the canal. That doesn't sound like much, does it? But to me it was, because it was something I'd never seen before. A new experience. Yes, I'd like to go back to England. Of course, see, I was also in Scotland and Wales. And I loved standing on the bridge at the River Dee. The River Dee. D-E-E. That's what you see in your crossword puzzles all the time. Three letters. What would go in those three letters? The River Dee. That's how we know there's a River Dee. I stood on that bridge in the rain, taking pictures of the river coming down out of those hills, and the rocks were huge, flowing over those big, water flowing over those big rocks, and it raining, and up to my right was almost like a cliff, and on top of that cliff was a railroad station. Not like the ones we have here. I got to take pictures of that. I've got a picture of the River Dee and the railroad station up on the hill. Yeah, it's nice to be able to travel and see things that are different to your way of life. Now, I've rambled on. Mostly things you probably not the least bit interested in. But I wrote all this down in a notebook. Let me show you. See this little book? Oh, that says Harrods. Can you read it? It's Harrods. I bought this little book down in the souvenir shop at Harrods of London. Now let me show you. Need to take this. This is a letter from England. But I want to show you. That's the story of my trip to England. Let's see what year that was. August the 3rd through the 17th, 2003. This says 7 days in London, England. Yes, I've got it all right here. Right here in this book. it's kind of hard for me to show it to you. My handwriting. That's 1 week in England. Wouldn't take anything for this. While you can, plan your travels. You won't be sorry. Go see the places that you can't see around home. You can do it here. You can get on a ship. You can get on a plane. But treat yourself to the rest of the world and how other people live while you can, because it may not be lasting much longer. I'm serious. I have a fear of the future. I hope you don't feel the same way. That means you've got more hope than I have. And I don't want to leave you with a sad note, but I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to check Billy Jean's recipe he put on, or chicken and dumplings. Let's see if he made them the same way my mother did. Now, I know he's a good cook. There's no question about it. So you look too, because he just put that recipe on. And he's got a new recipe on cream horns. When I was a teenager, to go to Clovertop Bakery and get a cream horn, which was not very often because they cost more than the donut did. But to get a cream horn was the delight of the week. They were so wonderful. Now, I'm not going to be making any cream horn because I know I can't make them like he does. But I'll look at the recipe and see how they look. He got pictures of them. You look too. You'll enjoy his recipes. There's no question about it. And I'll finish with the fact that we try to put our chit-chat with Granny Pat and Billie Jean on for tonight. But his network is not working in Texas. And we were going in and out and in and out. We don't know what was recorded. But we're going to check tonight, or I'm going to check tonight, and see how much he got on video and recorded it. You do the same, and you take care, and have a good day.